I think the most common misconception about Zionism is that the movement was primarily about rescuing Jews from persecution, rescuing Jews from poverty and destitution, and bringing them to Israel, bringing them to Palestine before 48. The reality is much the opposite. It was precisely those Jews, those needy Jews, those Jews who were impoverished and destitute, who faced pogroms in Eastern Europe. It was those Jews who were the first ones rejected by the Zionist movement. Because the Zionist movement, they didn't want needy, impoverished dependents. They didn't want families with lots of needy kids who couldn't work, who had to bear all these burdens of taking care of the elderly and their deceased kids, or their sick children, or their family members who needed extra help. The Zionist movement didn't want those people. That's not how you're going to build a Jewish state in a land of 90% non-Jews. No, to build a state, a Jewish state, in a land of overwhelmingly non-Jews requires force. And if it requires force, that requires able-bodied, physically healthy, not diseased, wealthy Jews with capital, coming from the right professions. And that was the philosophy of the Zionist movement from the 1880s, well into the 1950s, even beyond. The first two people in charge of Zionist immigration policy in Palestine, these were Menachem Shenkin and Arthur Rubin, from 1880 until 1914. They rejected 61% of these applicants, these Zionists in Europe who wanted to move to Palestine. They were rejected. And the reason for the rejection, because they were too destitute, they were impoverished, right? And the Zionist movement had no use for these people. Chaim Weizmann, leader of the Zionist movement, said the same thing in 1919, after you had a wave of pogroms in Ukraine, after which hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian Jews were left impoverished, they were left without work. These were the people actually who were desperate to move to Palestine, who wanted a safe haven and who needed a safe haven. Chaim Weizmann said, we can't help you. This movement isn't about saving Jews, needy Jews who have suffered from persecution. No, we want rich, wealthy, able-bodied, physically able Jews who didn't have kids, who didn't have needy dependents. That was the philosophy. And by the way, that philosophy was true even after 48, even after the establishment of the state. When in theory, now you have the resources of the state, you have an army, you have help from the United States and the Soviet Union, both countries that recognize your state just minutes after its establishment in May 1948. And even beyond, you have Zionist officials die. Oh, we rejected 300 Tunisian Jews because they were diseased. They had epilepsy and syphilis. And we rejected 500 Jews from Poland. These are Holocaust survivors that were rejected because they were unhealthy and sick.